So similar to the previous kind of question I posed to myself, this one follows in suit, where I assumed that at some point one of you guys might ask, wouldn't these trees be just fine on their own? Wouldn't they be okay if we as people or humans as a society didn't bother them at all? And honestly, it goes back to the stewardship question. The truth is, yes, they would be just fine. The problem with that answer is that they would only be just fine. So through the application of scientific principles and years of research, we're actually able to increase the ecological potential and the benefits to wildlife, to our culture, to people, to our society, and encourage the forest or the trees, at least on an individual level as well, to be more productive and healthier. They can be more than just fine, similar to the way that you and I could be just fine without a diverse diet or supplemental vitamins and medicine. If you could imagine not ever going to the doctor, you might be just fine, but certainly through the medicines and scientific research and development that we have, we're able to be better versions of ourselves, to live longer, to be healthier, and so in the same way, we're able to improve the lifespan, the vigor, the quality of these trees. In some respects, you might even think of a person who does my job as a tree doctor, so to speak, or maybe a forest doctor. Kind of in conclusion with all of these things, we conduct these harvest operations to the ultimate benefit of the woods, to be good stewards of our natural resources. It creates healthier forests, more productive ecosystems, even a healthier economy, and some really great educational opportunities for guys just like you and students in the future. So I'll try to answer a few more questions. I know Ms. Birch sent over a list. I think there were 13 or 14 questions on there, and I was so excited to get to them. I printed them off this morning and left them at the office. So I'll go from memory, and if your question isn't answered, I'll make sure to get back to those in the morning, and I will send an email with those unanswered questions or answers to those unanswered questions to Ms. Birch so that she has them and can make sure you guys are completely satisfied with the video that we had to do instead of a face-to-face meeting. So first question that I recall from memory was, do we do mass harvesting or sustainable harvesting? And I think the real question, or the way that I would probably word that, is do clear cuts or land clearing versus sustainable harvesting. So as a forester, typically my primary inclination or the way that I lean is always to encourage landowners to harvest sustainably, to approach their woodlot or their forest, any of the timber they own, with a mindset that resource is something not only for them, but also for their children, their grandchildren, or someone else's children and grandchildren. Occasionally you have people that want to clear out a spot for a farm or a house, and as a company, we are capable of producing those results for them. So on occasion, yes, we do harvest very aggressively. We're able to clear land, remove the timber off of it, but primarily our focus is to harvest sustainably with, as we mentioned before, good stewardship in mind. Second question from memory is, what are the red marks on the trees? Those are paint, obviously. You may have assumed that. Depending on the mark, I'll have to answer this in kind of a roundabout way. There's a few marks. Sometimes you'll see an X. Those are marks that give the loggers or the people that are cutting the timber an indication as to the health or the safety of that particular tree, saying that it may be damaged or have some issues that make it difficult to cut, that they are not required to cut that particular tree, but that they can if they deem it safe and profitable. You may see, of course they're probably not there anymore, but horizontal stripes, those are typically the harvest marks. Those are the trees that I mark to tell the loggers which trees actually to cut down. A few other marks you may see would be 3 diagonal stripes, and those are for a hazard tree where it may be not an issue that would directly affect you or something hazardous to your health just walking around, but for our timber cutters, when they've got other trees coming down in the woods, if they were to brush up against those hazard trees, you may have some issues with limbs coming out and causing harm to our workers. And so those are just marks to kind of give them an indication of the environment that they're working in. You had a couple questions about, let's see, the large stump over there in the amphitheater area, and we were able to remove the large portion of the stem there from that tree. Unfortunately, our equipment isn't quite suited to pushing or grabbing that stump. We can run up against it with some of that equipment and push it out of the way, but with the amphitheater there, we were concerned with causing damage to the school's property, so we did not push the stump. Unfortunately, we'll have to leave that. We would be unable to hook a winch to it from our equipment, and so that's probably going to be there for quite some time. Unfortunately, that was something that we were unable to handle for you guys. I apologize. And I remember one other question about the state of the trails, I believe, and it was worded interestingly. Asked if we anticipated any problems, I believe, with the trails or what we do with the trails that we make through the woods. And so every time that we make a trail through the woods, thankfully we had some very dry weather in which to do the logging out there, but we always go through and we make sure to lower a part of the machinery that we have that can kind of scrape along the ground and smooth that off. We do install water bars on those trails to prevent erosion so that you don't have unsafe ground conditions there in the forest going forward into the future. I believe those are all the questions I remember. Unfortunately, don't have the best memory at times, but for those of you that didn't have your question answered verbally, like I said, I will be more than happy to respond to those via email to Ms. Birch, and she can supply those to you. If you have any other questions after the video, feel free to write those down, maybe hand them in to her and have her send them over to me, and I can surely get back to you guys by email. I'd love to hear from you. If you have some comments, concerns, questions, whatever, feel free to get in touch anytime, and maybe I can buzz by one day over the next school year and drop in and see you guys if we can get clearance from the virus and all. So if you have any questions, I'd love to hear them. Otherwise, enjoy your day. I hope it was very informative, and I'm terribly sorry we couldn't meet in person. So have a good one, guys.